What's going on, everyone? I'm just a typical average American here today to react and learn about why Norway is amazing. This video here I found is actually through the perspective of an American who I think has lived in Norway for a substantial amount of time and is talking about all the reasons why she loves Norway and why it was amazing. And I don't know what kinds of things she's going to talk about, but I think listening to experiences like this is really interesting, especially since she's an American that went to Norway that really relates to me. Like, I feel like I'm going to get a really good little idea of what the experience was like. And since this video, it's very long. It's 20 minutes. She had 20 minutes worth of compliments for why Norway was amazing. But that is a bit long, so I'm going to cut this into two parts, two videos. I'm going to watch like 10 minutes of it right now. So, let's take a look. Norway is amazing. Here's why. Okay.
I love Norway. I think about it every single day and I miss it every single day. Can't wait till I go back. Yeah, I really miss the food in Norway. It's not really known, like when you think of Norway, it's not like, oh, Norwegian food. Like it's not like the first thing you think of when you think of Norway, but for me.
Yeah, that is so true. Like, Americans don't even know, nothing comes to mind when Americans think of Norwegian food. It's not like Asian food or Mexican food or whatever. When you think of Norwegian food, nothing comes to mind. So I have learned some of the actually interesting dishes in Norway, but maybe she has some thoughts on it.
For me, it was a lot of comfort foods, a lot of what I ate in Norway, and that's what I grew up on. Meat with potatoes and then vegetables. And that's a lot of what they eat. They eat a lot of potatoes, a lot of fish. My favorite thing in Norway.
The fish, right.
Norway was salmon. They have the best salmon in the entire world. Like, I don't care who you think you are, but they have the best salmon ever.
Okay. I know Norway exports a lot of fish too. And they catch a lot of fish because it's basically, Norway is all on the coast. So I know fish is a huge part.
Ever since I came back to the US, every time I eat salmon, I'm a little disappointed because it's just not as good. It really isn't. And it's probably in Norway that I learned to cook salmon the best because I had it twice a week. I would just buy it at the grocery store almost every week because it was just so much more affordable because it's more available there.
Oh, yeah. I was thinking salmon is really expensive in the United States because it's rare. It's hard to get. In Norway, is it much more affordable because there's a lot more of it?
And that I really liked is something called rislunch. I don't know how to describe it. It's kind of like rice pudding, kind of. And it comes in a little cup, like you would imagine yogurt comes in, but it has two little compartments, and you pour this jelly over the rice pudding. And then it comes with a little spoon that you can eat it with. And it was just a really yummy snack that I would take on the trains when I was traveling. And then the bread, I really loved the bread in Norway. It was amazing.
Oh, I love bread. I love bread. I would definitely eat all the Norwegian bread.
And when I got here, I was actually kind of sick because all the bread here just has so much sugar in it. Yeah, I still miss the bread in Norway.
Huh.
There are...
Yeah, she's perfectly correct. It's they put so much crap, so much bad stuff in all the food that you get in the United States, so sugary. The food is made differently in Norway. So that probably would be a really interesting experience.
A lot of weird foods in Norway. I didn't really eat a ton of weird ones because I know there's some dishes that are really traditional that are weird, fermented fish or lamb's head, but it's not as common. They don't eat it as much anymore. And so no one ever made those kinds of dishes for me. The weirdest food I ever had was someone from Ethiopia made me a traditional meal, and they ate with their hands, and I was like, oh, because in Norway, you almost never eat with your hands. You always use a fork and knife. Always.
What? Don't Norwegians really like pizza? Don't you eat pizza with your hand? You gotta eat pizza with your hand. It's part of the fun.
With a hamburger, I learned to eat a hamburger with a fork and knife.
Wait, hamburger? Wait. You eat hamburger with a fork and knife? Okay, yeah, that wouldn't fly in America.
Some people do just eat it like Americans because it's kind of influenced by American culture, the new foods and globalization. But they really do eat with fork and knife in Norway. So then I was taught like you hold your fork in your left hand, you hold your knife in your right hand, and then you hold the fork upside down and you scoop the food on. Yeah, it's just like a technique that you have to eat. So probably the weirdest thing was when I had to eat that
Okay.
Ethiopian food and they're like, no, you use your hands to eat this. And I was like, what? What do you mean? And then one other thing, a Norwegian woman made for me. I love her so much. She made us this funny dessert that I had never had before, and she had taken cottage cheese, you know, the chocolate powder that you make chocolate milk with. She had put that in the cottage cheese. So she like
What?
flavored the cottage cheese to be chocolate, and then she put in like this fancy like goblet, and then put like raspberries on top. And we were like, whoa, this is
Cho- chocolate powder on cheese? I don't know, man.
really inventive. So that honestly was like the weirdest thing a Norwegian ever gave
That's
me.
weird.
I mean, I ate it. It was pretty good. No Norwegian made me like really weird food. Even though it does exist there, I never tasted anything
Yeah.
that was like really gross or anything.
Yeah.
I liked all the food there. I don't think I ever had lamb before I went to Norway, but especially
Oh yeah, lamb. That's extremely rare to find in America. I've never had lamb. I know some people talk about it sometimes. It's like a delicacy. It's very uncommon to ever find lamb in America.
around Easter, they eat a lot of lamb. That was like one of my favorite meals that I had was a woman made us lamb like with our dinner, and it was
Huh.
like the yummiest.
Yeah, it's amazing how different different animal meats can taste from each other. It's really cool.
Meat I've ever had. It was super good. So I really love the lamb in Norway also. Not the head though. Didn't have that. Okay, so
Yeah, I've heard about that. Do Norwegians really eat the head of a lamb? Is that is that a tradition that's not done much anymore, or has every Norwegian at some point, as a rite of passage, eaten the lamb's head? Oh my god.
we have days where we just basically get ready for the week. We do our laundry, we go shopping. On that day we also go try and do something fun. We go on a little adventure, you know, maybe visit a museum, go on a hike, something simple, something fun. For our
That's nice. That's good. That's just healthy living. Making sure every week you make time to do fun, enjoyable stuff. And also to like get everything prepared for the week. And I like that. I like that. It's just like good time management too.
our activity one week, we decided to buy these little sleds that only your bum can fit on. It's just like this big. And then it has a little handle. So you put it under your bum and you like hold the handle and then you just lift up your legs and then you just slide. So
What? Tiny Norwegian sled. Tiny Norwegian sled. I gotta look up this. Oh, is this it? I think I found it. Oh, I think I found it. Hold on, can I make this bigger? There it is. Is this it? Oh, and you just grab the handle and lift it up to go. I've never seen that. That's funny. Oh, it's kind of cool.
what we did is we hiked up this huge like mountain for I don't know how long the hike took, but pretty long. And then at the top we just sat on our little sleds and we just like flew down the whole mountain, and it was so much fun because there was no like path. It was just powder everywhere, and so we just got so snowy and so wet, and it was so fun. So that was one of my favorite memories, and that was right when I got to Norway. My biggest
I like these things. Wow, it's probably so easy to travel with as well. Okay.
culture shock when I got to Norway, I probably would say just the language. Before we go to Norway,
Oh, the biggest culture shock. Okay.
when I got to
Oh.
my favorite memories, and that was right when I got to Norway. My biggest culture shock when I got to Norway, I probably would say just the language. Before we go to Norway, we study Norwegian for 6 weeks. You're getting like 5 hours of Norwegian every day. So
I feel like studying language like that, I don't know how well I would do. Just 6 weeks. I mean, 5 hours a day. Gosh. I guess that if you're trying to learn in a hurry, that would be the way to do it. But learning a whole language in 6 weeks just sounds extremely hard. Maybe they learned enough to kind of get by in Norway. Plus, you could most Norwegians speak English anyway, so that's extremely helpful for us.
Oh, it's very heavy studying for 6 weeks. And I just remember when I got to Norway, the first time someone spoke Norwegian to me, it sounded like Chinese. I think I just sat there with my mouth open, like, did you actually just speak Norwegian to me, or was that Chinese? Because they spoke so quickly and added little filler words in the middle of the sentences that I didn't know yet. And
Yeah, exactly. Like, Norwegians are gonna have a Norwegian accent. They're gonna speak where all the words run together. They're gonna speak quickly with different dialects. Like, so good luck trying to learn Norwegian in 6 weeks.
And so I think the biggest culture shock was, did I actually learn Norwegian in those 6 weeks, or did they teach me something different? Because I felt like what I was hearing was completely different than what I had been learning, especially because my teachers were Americans. They were amazing teachers, but they did have a little bit of American accents, and they did speak very slowly and very simply, so I would understand them.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the best way to learn is to be in the culture and hearing people speak it who are Norwegian. So that's the best way to learn.
Took French in high school, and so I kind of had tried to learn language before, but I didn't actually try that hard, because in school you kind of just study for what the test is for. You don't actually talk to people in that language. You don't really apply it. So I feel like
Yeah, that's a whole thing with American education. It's all test based. So we just study to answer questions on a test, on a piece of paper. Nothing is very practical. Like you would want to actually speak and put effort into like practical applications, not just passing the test.
Norwegian was my first attempt to really actually try and learn a different language. I found it to be pretty challenging to try and reteach my mouth how to move, because I found that you really did have to move your mouth differently in order to make the sounds that they were teaching me, and say the vowels different and consonants and all that.
Yeah, I have tried to speak Norwegian at times or read words, and when I listen to it and when I try to speak it, it's like my mouth isn't making the correct movements or shapes to produce the correct sound. Norwegian sounds and pronunciation is just unique and different than like my muscle memory of my mouth, I guess.
I remember being really tired all the time after being in class for several hours or after studying. I just remember just having droopy eyes and just being so sleepy, because my brain was just so tired of trying to translate everything that I was hearing. And so sometimes in class, I would stand up. I wouldn't sit in my desk. I would have to stand up while the teacher was teaching, because I told them, I said, I'm so sorry, but I can't sit down because I'll fall asleep. And I remember feeling like that for a long time when I went to Norway, is just being tired because my brain was just trying so hard to translate everything everyone was saying and
Yeah, I mean, this is just another reason why you really want to start teaching kids a second language when they're young, throughout your whole life. It's like a lifelong process learning a second language. And Americans, like, mostly try to learn it as adults, and that just makes it very hard.
translate what I wanted to say in Norwegian. But as soon as you start learning quicker, then it's less translating, and then you just automatically are able to think in Norwegian, and then it just comes a lot easier, and then you're not tired all the time. It was really challenging, especially because I always lived with Americans. I think that if I would have lived with a Norwegian, then it would have been way easier. Even though after living with American, I was out all the time, talking to Norwegians, meeting Norwegians, serving them, teaching them. I spoke a lot with natives, but I never lived with natives, and I think that's a different experience. So I think that I was somewhat limited in my capacity to try and learn, but that really pushed me to set goals for myself, and I decided I was going to quit speaking English after a short time, because I decided that it was holding me back and keep.
Wow, that's actually a really good idea, though. That's actually probably a good idea. If you really want to learn a language, just speak it. Speak only it, and You'll learn.
Keeping me from progressing and I wasn't satisfied with my rate of progress, and I decided that that was something that would help me. Something that I'm so happy that I did was throughout my entire time in Norway and before, while I was getting trained, while I was learning Norwegian for those 6 weeks in the training center, I took video recordings of myself speaking the language. I sounded so bad. It's really awesome because I can hear the progression of my pronunciation as well as flyt, like flow and the fluency.
Yeah, I mean, Norwegians, when I hear Norwegians speak English, there is a little bit of an accent, a Norwegian accent, but it's not very heavy. It's really not bad. Norwegians naturally speak English very well, like pronunciation, and their accent is like not very thick and heavy, like other parts of the world.
Kind of. It's so hard for me to listen to the videos. Oh my goodness. It seriously pains me. It pains me to try and speak how I spoke at the beginning, but I probably said like, hi, jeg heter Sarah, jeg kommer fra Salt Lake City, jeg har en familie.
This is probably how I would sound.
Oh, it was so bad. When I watched the videos, I think, did I really think that I was good? Because I was like, wow, I'm really catching on to this so quickly. And then I go back and I listen and I'm like laughing so hard. I cannot believe my teachers told me that I sounded good because I sounded seriously horrible.
Yeah, I mean, just further proof that there's such a big difference between studying a language like in your home country and then actually living it and like living in the culture.
And I seriously cringe every time I listen to those videos. My family's actually from Norway. Quite a few generations back, actually. It's my great-great-grandma that moved from Norway to America. So my grandma has been in contact with a distant relative for probably 15 years or more. I'm not sure. And she went to Norway one time and visited him. His name's Idova. So she had his address and she had his email. So when I was in Norway, I emailed him when I was in an area that was like a 30-minute drive from where he lived. And so I emailed him. I think he was sick the one week I was going to try and visit, but then eventually we were able to just go stop by. I was just going to go try and see if I could find their house from the address that he had sent me in the email. So I went and bought flowers from the store, and then we tried to find their house, and it was so hard. Like, we kept driving on all these streets because the streets are just kind of crazy, and we had a GPS and everything, but it was so hard to find their house. This was the address that my grandma had sent me. And so finally we come to this house, and I'm like, okay, I think this is the house. So I go knock on the door, and it was not the house. But the guy that answered, I was like, hi, I'm from America, and I'm living in Norway now, and I'm looking for my relative that lives here in Nashnes. And then I told him his name, and the guy that answered the door, he's like, that's my friend. And it was a crazy story because Norwegians, they're very private people, and they have like a few close friends. It's not like in America where, meet someone and then boom, immediately they're your friend. Or, I feel like in America, things are more surface level and it's easy to be like friends.
Okay, so it was kind of a miracle that this random guy she met actually knew her relative and they are good friends, because that's not so common in Norway.
Friends with people without having like really deep relationships. But Norwegians, they have very deep relationships with people, and so because of that they have a smaller circle of friends. And so it was crazy that I had managed to find the wrong house, but that it was one of his best friends. Then he was like, no, this is the complete wrong side of the city. Here's his real address.
Wow. Okay. Well, sounds like, I kind of knew this, but people in Norway are pretty nice, like pretty willing to help you if you need help, as long as you're like acting respectable and like being respectful, then people are pretty much willing to like help you. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Okay, I think I'm gonna stop the video here for this part 1 of why Norway is amazing. I am enjoying this so far. This is good. I'm enjoying this American sort of perspective of cool stuff, cool stories in Norway. So I will definitely watch the part 2 of this after this video. So look forward to that. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to give it a like or leave a comment. And if you're interested in more videos like this, me reacting to Norway, feel free to subscribe for more. And until then, thanks for watching, and see you next time.